This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode briefly mentions Dune, the Shadow Wand, and Shadows and Lies. There's also mention of death of a family member.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Kingdom of Copper, Book 2 in the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. And Jessica Marie, how did we feel about this time jump?
I was shocked. I knew the way the first book ended, you assume that it's going to pick up right away. And it does, for the most part. You get that in the prologue. And then all of a sudden, you're just like, I was in her kitchen, and all of a sudden, they were like, it's been 5 years. I was like, what? I full stopped whatever we were making for dinner. Interesting, because I feel like that immediately takes it out of YA, which I had assumed it was just because of the age range it was in the first book. And now I feel like there are adults doing adult things and having adult consequences because people die, and important people too, not just like, oh, person number one, person number two.
Yeah, we had some pretty big character deaths, which was very funny because, as Jess mentioned, she is here with me. She's recording upstairs and I'm downstairs. But you were talking about, like, gosh, they're really foreshadowing Ghassan's death. And I was like, really? Tell me all the places where they're foreshadowing Ghassan's death. And then he's a major character death that I personally was not expecting, even with all of the foreshadowing. I figured that would be a book 3 situation, but it wasn't. I really enjoyed this book. I just want to say that right off the bat. How did you feel about this being a political, like straight political high fantasy?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it in every sense. And then you even shared that it was high fantasy. I was like, wait, I understand this. This isn't intimidating. This is exciting. And I know at the end of the first episode, we said, okay, well, it's book 2. We know what a book 2 is. It tends to be a travel book, and like it tends to have like a lot of substance. And that's what this was. It didn't even feel like a book 2. Everything felt so significant, no matter whose POV we're in. Because for this book, we're in 3 POVs between Nahri, Ollie, and Dara, as opposed to book 1, where we only had 2 POVs between Nahri and Ollie.
And Jess, you mentioned that you like understood this and that you were like really firing on all cylinders with this. I just checked the page count. We're clocking in at a cool 609 pages here in our floppy paperback. So this is not a small, insubstantial thing. So I just want to take a minute and say, hurrah.
Well, thank
Hurrah.
you. You've helped get me here, because it would have been really intimidating otherwise. And I think whether you read the ebook or the physical book or even listen it into audio, and we read it through the audio and then we referred back to, like, you have the physical copy, so we'd be looking at that too. You don't feel like it. You feel like it's a thick book, but you don't, because so much is happening and so much is so pertinent to the story that it doesn't feel like fodder.
That's exactly right. I have a summary of notes that a website like provided, just of like high points. And then I also have 8 pages of my own notes, because I do feel like everything is important, but a lot of this book is setting up the environment of where you are, like describing the palace, describing the hospital, the citadel, the desert, Bernabat, all of those things to really immerse you in the setting or the clothes. Don't even get me started on the outfits. I need all of the fan art. My God. But it is easy to be sucked into this book, in my opinion, because one, it's a second book. You already know what's going on. And two, you have such a rich description of places that you are kind of familiar with, but now you're really into it. Like, this is the meat of it. And the story moves along really well. So there are not a lot of new characters, right?
No, we have basically everybody from the first book. We have Nahri, Dara, Ali, Zainab, Ghassan, Muntadir. You have you have the Shafiqs, you have the Ifrits. You also have more of Kaveh and Jamshed and Queen Hatset, who's Ghassan's wife and Ali's mother. And that's really like the new, I don't want to say new notable, but a lot of the people kind of take more of a role. And Maniza, if I didn't say that already.
Oh, Maniza. We'll get to her. So I think it's important to say that before the time jump that we have discussed, there is a prologue. And the prologue starts off with Ali not making it a month without trying to be assassinated in the desert. He is really struggling. Life sucks. Everybody is betraying him. They're after him. It's bleak.
Oh, and he even said, he's like, that would have been a better punishment than him always looking over his shoulder, being chased. But he eventually does get to he kind of creates a home and a community. Well, after he's kind of been kidnapped in a way. But then they were like, why should we believe you? You are we've been like asking your father, you're a Katani. You don't answer to us. Your father doesn't answer us. We have this drought going on. And Ali was like, yeah, about that. His magical power, because he doesn't have a control over his Marid powers. Water comes to fruition in this place that they were in a drought, and he goes, I think you're more valuable if we just keep you. And he creates kind of a whole community, so bringing his water powers from, now that he's a water djinn, after being unalived and brought back to life from the first book that we knew about.
And it's interesting that you say that Ghassan, like, it was a good punishment for like Ali and Ghassan and like all of that. But really, it's kind of Ghassan's foil, because Ali's experiences end up in the desert end up being that he can find springs and create irrigation and like bring life back to the desert. And he's out like interacting with the people in the desert, like his tribesmen, not the people in Daevabad, like his like real tribesmen. And he's out there just doing the work for 5 years. He's out there 5 years doing this.
I think there's even a line that says, you've done more for our community in 5 years than your father has done in 50.
Yeah. So Ghassan sending him out there, and then Ali actually flourishing, ends up being kind of just like a huge driving force throughout this whole book.
And I don't think it was like a calculated political move for him to do it. He was really just trying to make the best out of a really shitty situation, that he was like, you know what, this is kind of the hand that I was dealt, and we're just going to go forward. I don't think there was any strategy behind it.
And Ali is a natural leader, so he naturally steps into that. They call him Sheikh, so like Sheikh role in Bernabat for 5 years, and he solves all the problems. He reads over the contracts. He does the hunting and he does the Zahak jump, which I love because it is very, and I'm not making a comparison. It is just the thing that I thought of. It's very Dune. It's very Dune and the Worm. It's desert, it is what it is. But it was very fun, and I love that someone as reserved as Ali can be just like went for it. It was like kind of out of character, but not really. And it was really fun to kind of read it through Ali's experience.
Well, I feel like you get a lot of that in this book with Ali, where we know him as this very reserved, very devout person from book one, and how different life experiences kind of change a person to kind of get out of that familiarity of what the only life that they've known, more or less.
And that is a perfect transition because we can leave Ali here and we go back to Nahri. Nahri, her story picks up on her wedding night to Muqtadir, and this is less than a year after Dara died. So this is like still in our prologue situation. And essentially this little scene just tells us that Muqtadir and Nahri are not going to consummate their marriage on their wedding night. They're going to like wait, but like it has to be done eventually. Muqtadir doesn't know her. He's kind of scared of her, but he has a sentimental streak. And we get that through the interaction with his mom's like mask clips. And I thought that was very sweet. Then we have the Karkade and the hibiscus tea, all of that. Very fun. Jess, I know that you were just fuming over another marriage consummation ritual.
Always. Because part of this ritual was I can't remember the specifics, but they have to be like covered, like they're basically rolling around in ash, and the bed sheets have to be shown to show that they were I hate the whole patriarchal concept of, I'm sure it still happens in many communities, and I'm sorry that I didn't do my full research of which ones. But I know in a lot of Spanish cultures back in the day, you had to put the white sheet out and show that she was basically proving that your wife was a virgin. And there's just like so much purity culture and religion and the patriarchy basically wanting proof that like, hey, my man got laid. Like that's what it feels like. And it's just so gross. But I appreciate that Muqtadir, because, that was a concern of Nahri. She's like, but they're going to know if we don't consummate. And he was like, hold on, let me get some ash here, rub it in my hair, put it here. Let's just mess up the sheets. I've been told I'm a restless sleeper. Like it reminded me of, again, not to make the comparison, but in the Shadow Wand where Lucas was just really respectful of Ellerin. I loved that, like, there's the communication there to be like, neither of us are comfortable with each other. And we're both kind of scared of what's going to happen, but just like as each other, as people.
And it is sweet. But Nahri, I love Nahri. I should come out and say that. I love Nahri. Nahri takes this opportunity, though. She's like, hey, Muqtadir, where's Ali? Where is he? Everyone's been telling me the same fucking line. Where is he? And Muqtadir gives her the same line. He's like, but he's not dead. But he's not dead.
I mean, it's like when you see all the media clips of the same talking points that when people are doing press for certain movies, and I can't spoil it, it's the same regurgitated line. And she's like, no, not you. Because it's too that everybody is so similar.
Yeah, it's too that everyone's so similar. Zainab is crying. She's like totally isolated in the palace. Like, what the fuck is that?
And she also says, like, people talk. Like, I don't know if you know this, but like, everybody in the castle talks, in the palace talks. And just because you don't associate with certain people, I'm in the trenches. I am in the hospital. I'm hearing everything that everybody's, because I'm taking care of them. And they're just talking. They just feel comfortable talking to me. So I know what's being said is the real shit.
Yeah, exactly. But Muqtadir comes back with some other real shit. And he's like, you know what? Essentially, I'm always going to be loyal to my family first, Nahri. Like, it's my family, it's the palace, it's the city, it's the crown. Like, those are my priorities. You're not even like close to that.
I don't even consider you family. And later, Ghassan even makes a comment like that because Ali's trying to stand up for Nahri, and he goes like, "That you are her father-in-law," and he's like, I don't have any grandkids. Barely. I hear the rumors. They have not slept together in months.
Yeah. So it's very, How do we feel about Dara?
I'm mixed on Dara. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him because I can't. I think it's just, there is no black and white when it comes to him. I feel like there's a lot of gray area. You can tell, like, in the prologue, he thought he was dead. He knew he was dead. His sister was like, come on. And he's like so grateful. He finally gets to see his sister again. And then he's feeling called, which we knew was going to happen at the end of book 1 because of the ashes and the ring and bringing, the reincarnation of it all. And he goes, I'm being called, I'm being beckoned. And he knows it's from like by Nahid because that's who he serves and who his family served. And his sister is even saying in that, like, that purgatory limbo afterlife, like, you are always going for them. Like, don't answer, like, come with us. And he's like, oh, I have to. And by the end of the book, he's like, I was so happy. I should have just stayed with my sister. Like, what the fuck was I thinking?
His sister, Tamima, she says, you're finally so close. Don't go with them. You're so close to like moving on into paradise. But yeah, he is pulled back, like you say, and he thinks it's Nahri because he is back into a body and he feels hands on him that calm him down. And of course, the only one that he can think of is Nahri because she's the only one that he knows of. But it's not. Who is it?
It's Manaiza, Nahri's mother.
Manaiza. I'm very conflicted about Manaiza. We'll get to it. But what does Manaiza say here? Because Dara starts freaking the fuck out. I think rightly so. For so many reasons, Dara starts freaking out right here. He has claws and he's like all fiery and strange.
Oh, he was like, what is going on? Like, this isn't like you're turned into an Ifrit if you didn't believe in like the Suleiman and his seal and like and basically what he was preaching. He goes, but our people did. We did all the things. Why am I like this?
Yeah, and she goes, you are the first free Deva in 3,000 years. You are free of Suleiman's curse. But then for Dara, who like worship him, it's Suleiman's blessing. So it is that right there is the first rip in Manaiza and Dara, and it's instant.
But it's also funny because now that you're saying it, she's like, you're the first free Deva. But then later in the book, she's like, don't forget who you answer to. You basically belong to me. I am the reason that you're here. Yeah. And she holds it over his head relentlessly throughout the whole book.
Yeah. And that is essentially Dara's entire story. From here, he is with Manaiza and Kaveh on and off and training a little band of 40 soldiers to attack Daevabad on Nagasadam for the rest of the book. And it's just his like inner conflict with what they're doing, when they're attacking, how they're attacking, who their allies are, and his morals and guilt over all of it, essentially. Poor Dara. I do feel bad for him here, but he is just like, I don't know, he kind of annoys the shit out of me, but I have to remember that he is at his core a himbo.
Yeah. At his core, the sympathy is for the women around him.
He is at his core a himbo. So like what can we say? Okay. We are now finally at our 5-year time jump. We have the Ayanle delegation coming up through the lake in a sand ship. I love this shit. It's very Harry Potter, very fun. Awesome. I can't wait to see this one day on screen. I think it would just be fantastic.
Oh, this would be a beautiful trilogy. Like a movie trilogy. I wouldn't want this to be like a streaming thing. High quality, high budget. This could be beautiful.
Yeah, this could be stunning. This could be exactly what everybody needs. You know, this could be amazing. Daevabad is not amazing, though. Daevabad is in a economic downturn. I like that they say that right away. Nahri's like, the docks look like shit. They've looked like shit forever. And BT dubs, the city is fucking crumbling. What's going on? And I do like that because Ali is the one that was like so interested in economics and he was the one finding loopholes and everything. And he has been gone from the city 5 years now. So it crumbling significantly while he's gone is just very poetic, I thought. Very interesting.
I think it also shows like how well that Ali had his finger on the pulse and everything economic, and almost proves it has to hurt the other Katani's egos that they couldn't do it without him in a way, because everything was fine when he was there. And I'm sure he's not the only reason, but he had a lot of say and awareness. He was essential. I mean, he was his brother and in a way his father's Kaed.
Well, let's talk about Mutadir. Mutadir is not, he's not doing well. He is hanging on by a thread. Yeah. Although in this opening scene, he does defend Nahri, which I do like and appreciate. But my guy is in a drunken haze, I think, more or less this entire book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how often does Nahri go to his room in the morning and she's like, and that is not tea. That is not water. That is something a lot stronger. And of course the conversation's like, oh, my son isn't an alcoholic. And we're like, okay, well, there's definitely some alcohol dependency going on there. Because Mutadir's miserable. His brother's not there, even though he's had like a very tumultuous relationship with Ali. He doesn't want this. He doesn't want his position. He's not talking to like the love of his life or his wife. He's just kind of bedding courtesans left and right.
Yeah, he is. And he tries every now and then to like insert himself into policy and like kind of influence his dad, but it just like it works, but then it doesn't work. So like here, when he's talking to Abul Duwanik about late taxes, the guy's like, what about your dad? It's coming. It's behind me. No worries. But this is where we get Zainab and Nahri sneaking out. They're sneaking out. We love a good escape your litter and sneak out through the town market situation. Loved it.
Oh, those are always so fun. And it happened in the first book too. I like that Nahri and Zainab have a better relationship now. Like they definitely have that, well, assuming, I don't know, I don't have a sister-in-law, but have a sister-in-law, sister-like relationship, basically just seeing more female companionships in this book that Nahri is able to have outside of just Nasreen.
And Zainab doesn't give Nahri like a chance to back down. She's like, you know what, you get caught getting out of the city all the time. I don't. Come with me. This is how you do it. I got all these people in my employ. Everybody knows what's up. We find out later Mutadir even knows about this. It's like not a thing. But it is through this, disguised outing, Nahri steals an orange and she like barters for that Egyptian book. And it's like very embarrassing for everybody.
Zainab was like, you don't do that. You just say yes. And those are the instincts that Nahri is channeling from growing up in Cairo.
It's also around here where Zainab and Nahri start talking about Zainab's potential future husband, which is brought up later in the book, but this is like Malacca, and she says it's like really far away. She doesn't want to. He's old. He has a lot of wives. He's very wealthy though, which is kind of the thing. But then, and this is like a hint just to what is going on later. Nahri's like, what about your mom? Like your mom can't possibly like support this. And Zainab's like, yo, my mom has like other shit going on, She's scheming. She has other schemes because she's scheming. She's too busy for this. And Nahri's like, okay, interesting. But then instead of like pursuing that, it's the magic like wave of coldness. And it is there that they find, I say they, Nahri and Zainab, find the hospital. I loved this. I love the hospital. I love the reclaiming of the hospital, the finding of the hospital, and the slaves, the freed slaves that are living inside the hospital. All of it, I think, would be beautiful again on screen.
And I love that Nahri, she's trying to bring something to this community, right? Like if she's going to be here, it's another kind of situation that if she's going to be here, what can she do to give back to the people? These people will eventually be her people because she's married to Mutadir and he is next in line. And she tries so hard to be accepted and to also kind of prove to the Devas, like, Shafit's aren't different. Like, everybody's the same, because she's still under the guise that she's pure blood, even though she's not. She's like, y'all like me just fine. See, like, we could like everybody. And I mean, later she even fully proves that when she's using her healing abilities, and people got mad at her for healing other Shafits.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I really love Nahri's progression and confidence that she gains throughout this whole book, especially in that scene. But it is here where we meet Razu, Alashia, and Issa. And of course, all of these characters come back because they all know Ali's mom, and it's all a tangled web that we weave. Mostly what we get here is that they are freed slaves, scholars, they're very knowledgeable, and if Razu says, like, if you rebuild this hospital, I'll be your first recruit. Like, I know what's going on. I have 2,300 years of, like, knowledge in the human world. Very fun. Very good stuff. So these are, like, allies that we have right away for Nahri in this hospital. Very fun. We've already talked about Ali riding the Zahak and all of his kind of story there up until and I love this, his cousin Musa shows up. Because plots be plotting, schemes are scheming, and it's like, we've got to get Ali back to Daevabad. How can we do that? Let's drop him some cursed salt that only like he can touch, and let's make him take it back to Daevabad and move the plot along. I do appreciate an obvious plot device.
Well, and then even when he comes back, you have Ali telling, like, because his dad, Ghassan, is saying, like, I got your letters. You really tried hard not to come. Like, he was like, we could do this. I could send this person, and no other like, I respect that Ali's like, I know you want nothing to do with me. I'm trying really hard here to stay out of y'all's hair, but there really is no other option.
Yeah. And Mutadir's like, sure. And Ghassan's like, no, but really, like, there's a fucking stack of these. Like, he worked his ass off to not do this. Love. We also get here that Ali and Zainab are still in communication, and she, like, sends him money, and she sent him, like, a bracelet to help his headaches and stuff. And I love that they are still in contact, even though, like, they're not supposed to be, like, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you can see that at the end of the first book with City of Brass, that they were both actively trying in their relationship as siblings.
And especially at the end of this book, too, where Ali's like, no, I need my siblings. I need them with me. Their support means more than anything else. And I think that Ali came a long way in that, too, because he does say that in when he's reading Zainab's letter, that their relationship was one that he was too, like, self-righteous and too young to appreciate, and that he has matured now and he really loves his sister.
Well, and and this goes back to, he's lived a life. Like, he had, let's say, 18, 20 years under this citadel boarding school regime with his devoutness. And then, like, real life happened outside of that, and he had to kind of say, like, okay, maybe there isn't room to be so righteous because there are other things going on.
Well, other things going on are nobody's fucking happy with Nahri about this hospital. Nobody. The elders it's like the elders, Jamshit, like nobody. And I appreciate her being like, you know what? Like, I don't like need your permission. Like, I can just do this. This is a courtesy.
Yeah. And then she eventually goes to Ali to be like, look, I need somebody on my side because nobody's going to stand with me if none of the Katani are. And she's like, you're a last resort. Basically, you're a last resort, especially like once Ali shows up. And because they worked so well together is the exact reason where Ghassan was like, you know what? You want it so bad? He can stay here. You cannot leave the palace. And when it's done, it can like when it's done, then you can show up, and it better be done in 6 months.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
BT
we're just not
dubs.
going to. Yeah. And everyone's like, that is actually impossible. It took years to make this something. You want it done in 6 months. And they were like,
Bet. But the excuses that everyone gives Nahri, which is just like infuriating, and I feel so bad for Nahri and I get so angry for her because they're telling her like parts of the reason why it's not a good idea. They're like, oh, but like it has a bad history. Oh, but like it was the first to fall in the war. Oh, but like, you know, like Shafi revolted and like murdered everybody inside with roomie fire.
They're dancing around everything instead of being like direct with her. And one of the things that Ghassan always loves is like, oh, Nahri, you're always so direct. I love it. Like she's just like, she has to cut through the bullshit all the time.
Yeah. And then also we get at the end, it's like, oh, the hospital is like the Nahids kind of like experimented and did human experiments. You know, it was all murky. It was all a murky situation with the hospital. And Nahri's just like, why doesn't anybody fucking tell me anything? Just come clean with me and then we'll sort it out. But like she learns everything in like a weird kind of curvy, twisty way. And I'm so frustrated for her. It's just like, own up to your shitty history so that everybody can know it, so that you can work together to move not past, but like forward. So I don't know. I feel bad for her. And also though, it is here that we get Jamshid, and I feel bad for Jamshid this entire book, I feel bad for him. He's still injured. So it's been 5 years. He's still injured. It took him a solid fuck all year before he woke up. That shocked me.
Well, and on top of that, and we find this out in this book too, is that he wasn't allowed to be healed. He wasn't allowed to be touched for at least a week. So we know that. So who knows what that week would have done if they operated, if they started working on him sooner. And it was just to prove a point, because Ghassan rules with an iron fist and there's no room for any type of feedback.
No, not at all. No.
And he's not trusting people, obviously, because he's another one who's not trusting everybody. And at this point, like, he created that for himself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is very...
Right.
I mean, and this is why we like politics. This is very fun. But Jamshid's not healed, and he gets increasingly desperate to get better because Muqtadir is getting worse in his like personal mental health spiral. And like the guards don't respect Jamshid anymore, and he's not a member. He doesn't protect Muqtadir anymore. He's been replaced. It's very shitty. And it is like through this interaction that Jamshid and Nahri have with the guards and the treason, that accusation that's going on that they stumble upon, where that woman is just like, you know what? Fuck you. How can you protect us if you cannot protect yourself? These soldiers don't respect you. This is going back to what you say about an iron fist. In this situation with Nahri, Jamshid, and this treason family that they stumble into, Nahri's like, yo, these soldiers know who I am. They're treating me like dog shit in public. The only reason they feel comfortable to do that is because it's coming down from the top being Ghassan, that you can just like fuck off to all the Devas. Like they're not important, like whatever. And that's when Nahri's like, well, this is bad. That I think that's kind of her first, not like first inkling, but like, I guess in this book of like, well, damn, maybe things are a lot worse than I initially thought, because you see that mirrored in politics today.
Oh, well, that's politics. Like,
yeah, absolutely. There's a mention here that Kaveh is not there. He's gone to his estates. Now we know, having read the book, that in this instance, Kaveh has gone to Manaiza and to Dara, and that is where he is. And it is through Kaveh that we get Dara's like kind of scandalized realization that Manaiza and Kaveh are like screwing around, and he's like, oh, but they're so holy, but like, oh my God, but like,
because one of the parts is that he caught Kaveh kind of stumbling out of Manaiza's room, and he's like, what is going on? But then he's also trying to see how Kaveh can work in his favor. And at this point, he goes, hey, I know about your son. And Kaveh's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Dara goes, really? Because I got my powers back for a hot second before everything went down on that ship. And you can see, like in the book, I say, like you could see how the color is basically draining from his face. Like, what do you mean you got your powers back? And he's like, and I saw a lot of things. I saw the things that Nahri wanted and the things that Ollie wanted and their desires and their deepest wishes. And I saw Muntadir's, and guess what? It wasn't the throne. It wasn't politics. It wasn't his, like, everything to do with his family. It was actually like pretty low key and just about your son, and he's in love with your son. And he's like, and that's where Kaveh is kind of in a way, like, I don't want to say blackmailed, but in a way, yes, because he really wants to protect Jamshed, because he goes, how, and that's where Dara is asking, how long has this been going on? How long has this been going on? And we find out from Kaveh, he goes, Jamshed and Muntadir have been involved for at least 10 years that he was aware of. And this includes, like, we have to remember that there's also a time jump. So we have the 5-year time jump and then 5 years before that. So he was like, and you know what? He's just, it has nothing to do with their relationship. Like our money, our name, like our politics, our stature in the community, like that would have saved them. But Muntadir did fuck all to protect my son. My son has literally almost gave up his life and still cannot stand up to his father or to like the kingdom and to politics. And my son like just loves this man who is so bad for him.
So bad for him. And Kaveh also hates Dara because Dara is the one that shot Jamshed, even though it was like an accident, accident, but like Jamshed like jumped in front of Muntadir. It was the whole thing. But he's like, you know what? After all of your bullshit on the boat, Dara, because you couldn't just let it be, right? You couldn't, and I like that. Dara's like, what did you want me to do? Did you want me to leave her there? Did you want me to do? And Kaveh's like, yes, you stupid fucking man. We wanted you to leave her there. She would have had kids with Muntadir, and then we could have influenced her to take over. And then it would have been this whole political coup that we could have like slowly gained support from for, we have unlimited time. And you went and fucked it all up because you're stupid man. And I like that Kaveh just like,
because you're in love with a Nahid.
Yeah.
Again.
It's just like, oh my God. And I do like that. And Kaveh's just like, fuck you, like royally fuck you for everything. And he stays like that the whole time. He's just like really mad at him. But it is here where Manaiza is first experimenting with the smoke. She's experimenting with relics, and there's purple smoke happening here. But this is where they agree to attack 8 months later on Nagasatam. And Dara's like, we can't get in the fucking city. This is a bad idea. We have 40 men. This is not good. Just because we have 2 Gaziri scouts like captured that we're going to like interrogate and learn from doesn't mean shit. We can't do this. And that's when Manaiza's like, well, bet the Marid say... And Dara's like, the Marid say that we can get into Daevabad through different means. And obviously, like, that's the lake, obviously. But scary stuff, because it is setting up my conflicts with Manaiza right away.
Well, this is the part where I was chatting with you last night, and I go, I don't know what direction that Manaiza is going to go. I don't know if she has ulterior motives, or is her motives driven solely by the love of a mother for their daughter kind of situation, even though even at the end of this book, you know that that Manaiza, she's like, she thinks she knows her daughter, but she just has this idea of who she wants her daughter to be in her head. But even so, it's not just about her daughter. We also find out that Jamshid is her son.
Yeah, Jamshid is her son.
And it almost seems like that's more of her concern than Nahri. It's just that Nahri shares similar powers and healing abilities to Manaiza.
And that's a good point, because Manaiza says, like, don't worry, Kaveh, everything he's owed will be given back to him, like, tenfold. He will have, like, successes and riches, everything owed to him, he will have. We just have to, like, take the city. And it's like, okay. Okay. But he's, like, suffering now. You understand that? Like, again, we have very conflicted feelings about her as a mother. We'll get into it. Woo, we'll get into it. So as we're like kind of going on along here, like random stuff is happening. Like Nahri finds that Shafiq man that had the surgery in her garden, and she like, you know, is trying to figure out what that is about. And Ali, though, pretty much returns to Daevabad because all of his letters to Ghassan have been answered saying, like, your return pleases us. Like, you know, slightly scary, slightly ominous, but we'll go for it. And Ali, though, just cannot enter quietly. Everything is a fucking issue. And he sees Shafiq being sold basically like at auction under like a flimsy find your lost relatives, like whatever excuse. And Ali buys them with his Zulfikar, and the royal guard comes out to get him, more or less. And it's just a little bit of drama, right? Ali's just drama wherever he goes. He can't help it. I have such a soft spot for Ali. But he is dumb as shit, though, because he takes Dara's dagger. And he's like, oh, I'm going to give this to Nahri. I'm going to give this to... She'll like this. And then he intrudes upon her secret orange grove and just fucking makes her so mad.
I love that she was so combative the second she sees him for the first time. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, no. She's like, nobody, not even my own husband bothers me here. Who do you think you are? He's like, oh, well, I wrote you letters. And she goes, and they made great fodder for fire. Like, even though we later know in the book that, like, she wound up reading him. But fuck off. She's so pissed. Like, she goes, now she's like, I can't, like, I've heard all these things. I know that you're alive, but life is not what it was 5 years ago, because you were one of the few people that I actually let in and trust when I don't trust a lot of people. I mean, even Muntadir says, one of the lines is like, you have more walls up than a maze. So she goes, and so now she's also been sitting with that for 5 years, that frustration, that hurt, that anger, that betrayal of, I trusted you that you would get us out of Daevabad, and I am stuck here because of you.
And she says, like, you tricked me. Like, you knew all my, like, little secrets. You were my friend, like, and you tricked me, like, right to my fucking face. And it's a betrayal that, like, rightly so, is not easy to get over. Like, good God, absolutely not. I don't think I've come out and said that I love Queen Hatshep. I love her so much. And I love Zainab when she slaps the shit out of Ali for leaving the palace, going to the Citadel and not seeing them first. And she slaps the shit out of him. And she's like, no, we're going to see Mom. Fuck you. We got stuff to do. The scene that follows with the Queen and the reveal kind of about like who's plotting, what's going on. And then finally when Ali's mom sees all of Ali's scars, because she starts like teasing him, like, why are you so fucking dirty? Like, you stink, like, you're dirty, like, take a bath. And he's like, no. And she finally sees his scars. And that is one of those moments where you could tell, like, Ali had so much, like, this part of him he locked down, and to finally tell his mom, like, everything that happened was so cathartic for him. I really felt for him. And also her reaction, it's a good example, because, like, that is the reaction of, like, a good mother, right? Like, what is this? What happened? Tell me everything. We're going to fix it. I will take care of you. And then you have Manaiza, who is the opposite.
Yeah, Queen had said she just wants to know, like, it feels it feels that it's without judgment. Like, tell me because I want to know, because I want to help, not hold it against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then she dresses, she's like, we're gonna handle it. We'll find out what's going on. No worries, no worries, no worries. We all have to go to the feast, but like, I'm gonna do you up to the nines. You're gonna look good. And, here are some plots that we're plotting, but we're not plotting a lot of plots. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. How did you feel about Ali's welcome feast with all of the cooks coming in and presenting all of their stuff?
Well, like they were all basically trying to impress everybody. It felt very performative.
Oh, yes, very performative. And also you can say that the whole point of it was basically to poison and kill Ali, because that's what Jamshit does.
Oh, duh. How did I forget? How did I forget that part?
Because, and the reveal that it was Jamshit, like, I was not expecting it to be Jamshit that Falmanizes old books and, like, brewed this up and, like, put it in the silver to in the cooks, to in the pastries for Ali to eat, to kill Ali. It speaks to how desperate Jamshit is getting, because he's not able to be healed by Nahri. It's getting worse. Mutadir's getting worse. And he is just like almost getting frantic.
Oh, and this is the part where like they've already, Nahri and Ali have had their fight at this point, but it's also after this, the poisoning's happening and she's asking for the seal to be lifted so she can heal him. And through this whole dynamic, and he's resting, this is where Nahri overhears Ghassan and Queen Hatset fighting about. Queen's like, who are you? What did you do to your son? You did not consult me for any of this. You just have this whole thing. You're not running any. He's my son. He is my son. And she's calling him out left and right. Love it.
Oh, yeah. She's not taking it. And Nari's like, hide me. Mom and dad are fighting.
But also, I want to hear more. Tell me more.
It's good. And Ghassan's basically just like, look, it is what it is. This is how it's going to be. You either fall in line, or you're not going to see your son. I'm going to cut you off economically, and you're going to go back to Dimitri, and you're never going to be allowed in the city. And that's when she's like, who the fuck are you? And why would you threaten me with shit like that? I'm like his mother.
And that's also where another part of the foreshadowing goes. I was like, Ghassan's going to get taken down or killed or something, because she goes, this is the exact reason. Hold on, I have the quote. Okay, and the quote is, and that Ghassan, that you would reach for such a threat with the mother of your children, that is why your people hate you.
Yeah, and it's like, boom, mic drop.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
Thanks for joining us for part 1 of The Kingdom of Copper. You know how sometimes we tend to run long. Feel free to join us in a couple weeks for part 2, airing May 29th. And in the meantime, please follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram, ACOFAE Podcast, and we're both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Talk to y'all soon, and thanks for joining. Bye!